person that I can see waiting to watch this live is me waiting to see if
I'm
it's going.
also waiting also.
So YouTube's lying. That means there should be
No,
at least 2 people waiting to
right.
watch them, unless it knows not to count myself. So maybe that's what's happening. Anyway, hi Mark. Good to see you. And welcome everyone. Hey, look, this week we can do one of those weeks where we have got a theme to talk about. If anyone's new here, we chat every week, and it can be a range of people from around the world, different guitar builders at different points in their career, people that do it professionally, people that are doing it for fun, people that have never built before, maybe someone builds pedals or amps. And quite often we just chat about whatever's happening in our worlds at the moment, building worlds. But sometimes we have a theme. And of course, we're 2 weeks behind. This is the video I wanted to make 2 weeks ago about Fender. But the reason we didn't is for the last 2 weeks, we've gone back to what we used to do. Last 2 weeks, we've had Nick from Petrek Guitars 2 weeks ago. And then last week, Mark and Kent from Tunguska Guitars on, and basically had an hour and a half chat with them about where they're at with their building at the moment. And both were fascinating. Nick took a guitar to 50 different locations. Well, didn't take a guitar, he took his tools to 50 different locations and built from scratch, only using hand tools, no electricity, including no power lights, working outside, and built a guitar. And then Mark and Kent talked about what it's like working together and how they split their workload in designing and producing guitars, and their prototyping process and how that's changed over time, which I found fascinating. So look, today there's a few things I want to talk about related to Fender. Alan's in the chat. Hi Alan. If anyone wants to join in a live chat, please do. If anyone's watching in the future and's got comments, leave some comments, because it's all about Fender and this copyright stuff. Hey Mark, I don't know if you saw, I was really cheeky and I took one of my old videos which I'd made about using routers, and I happened to use a Strat to make a copy of a Strat, to make a template, and then to make a template, a Strat body. I edited that together so it had none of me talking or explaining how router bits work, and was just a short video to music of building a Strat.
I watched it. I saw it
you
today.
did? Oh, well, thank you. It's had interesting comments where people on my simple video about that getting pissed off with Fender, which I find fascinating. My favourite comment of it all was, but the clickbait thumbnail title was how to make an exact copy of a Fender Stratocaster. Or maybe, depending on where you're watching it, it might have said, screw you Fender, or F you Fender, or as I put on Facebook, sue me Fender, things like that. One person said this isn't an exact copy because it's how are you going to deal with that fret sprout issue? Like, how am I going to build in the flaws that you expect from Fender? They phrased it in a much funnier way than me, though. Hey, Spike! Spike's in the chat as well. I did want to ask, though, Mark, before it happened, something amazing happened to you this week. Do you think you could tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. Actually, I now have like 2 Ken Parker stories, but this is the latest Ken Parker story. And Ken Parker is one of my favorite luthiers. He passed away recently. And out of the blue, I get a message from a woman named Chelsea. And she's a musician and was a close personal friend of Ken Parker. Anytime Ken would finish one of his arch tops, he'd invite her over and she'd play it. She was a musician. He'd get her take on it. So she reaches out to me because she was tapped for basically organizing all the speakers for his celebration. So they were going to be having a Ken Parker celebration this past Thursday, right? So I got this message. He was organizing all the speakers, and what happened was,
oh no, Mark! I think either you've frozen or I've frozen. Oh no. Have we lost Mark in this brilliant story?
Love letter to the Parker Fly. And he wanted to play it during the celebration.
Yes. I'm going to have to interrupt you. You cut out then. I can see Alan saw it in the middle. You cut out just as you said Chelsea is the person that plays his guitars when he finished them, and then we didn't hear the rest of the story.
Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, so she reaches out to me because she was going to be organizing all the speakers for a celebration. And the celebration was this past Thursday. And what happened was Larry Fishman of Fishman Pickups, right, had asked her if it was okay to play a video in the background. And it's this video that he found on YouTube. It's one of my videos. I made a video called A Love Letter to the Parker Fly. And Larry Fishman had seen it, and he says, I want this to be played in, at the celebration. So she has to reach out to me, right, and say, is it okay? I want to be able to edit it down, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, yeah, feel free. You can do whatever you want. So first of all, pretty massive that Larry Fishman watches my videos. Two, he was like, really entertained by it. But I think the whole reason was Larry Fishman believed, this is what Chelsea told me, that Larry Fishman believes that everybody knows Ken Parker from his arch tops. And he wanted people to remember that Ken Parker also made the Parker Fly and that it had an impact on people. And so I think he wants that video to be played. So here's the way it's going to work. Chelsea told me that the celebration is going to start off with Ken Parker's partner introducing the whole celebration. I think his wife or girlfriend, I'm not sure. And then she's going to have Larry Fishman come on as the first speaker. And then they're going to play my video literally like in the background. I'm not really sure how it's going to work, but like, it's pretty surreal. Yeah, right.
And were they aware that you told me before that that Ken had watched some of your videos?
Yeah, I told her that story. Yeah, she was pretty impressed. And she was really cool too, because like she's so nice. And she actually invited me to Ken's shop. Like, I don't know how she has the power and authority to invite me to a shop. She's like, yeah, just come to the shop. I'm like, okay. And she also invited me to the celebration, but obviously I'm not going to be, in the Northeast, in that area, by Massachusetts, Maine.
That is just an incredible story and an absolute honor. And it's one of your heroes. So that's just bonkers as well.
Yeah. And she's also like, I'm going to get you in touch with Larry Fishman. I'm like, why do I need to get in touch with Larry Fishman? That's like, I'm nobody. But like, she was that, like, she's like she connects people. Like, that's her job, really, to like organize, connect people, all those kind of things.
Well, you should definitely get in touch with Larry Fishman. no doubt about that. But also, you were telling us a few weeks ago about your pickup experiments. It'd be cool, if he it sounds like he potentially might watch your videos anyway now. That.
Right. But which makes sense because I mean, most of my time on YouTube, like I don't watch guitar building anymore on YouTube. I'm like actively looking for the mad scientists on YouTube. Like I'm actively looking for them, like the really weird ones. And I find them. The guitar building mad scientists are on YouTube. They have 20 subscribers. Their videos probably get like 2 or 3 views, but I find them. And they're doing some pretty weird stuff, right? That's not necessarily entertaining, but like it's just totally bizarre. So it makes sense that there's like other like-minded mad scientists kind of looking for each other on YouTube. Yeah.
Maybe one week we should have a breakdown of some of the people you've seen on here. That'd be great. You can direct us all to some new channels to follow and things to watch. Oh, speaking of which, just while I'm thinking of it, don't forget if there's anyone there that doesn't know what the Jurgs Cup is, I'll put that up here. But the Jurgs Cup's running at the moment. Very essentially, it's a community build along. On Facebook, there's a Jurgs Cup group, and what I've noticed, it's been growing a lot recently. And I put a poll on it today, just asking, is anyone there? Because they're builders that are building as part of the Jurgs Cup. Have you built before? Is it your first time? Have you built lots? Have you built a few things? Or are there people just following because they want to see lots of new builders and support them and encourage them? And there was a mix for everything. There were people there to support people there that had built for the first time or are building for the first time. It's a great thing. Go and check it out if you don't know that. That's a good way to find some new builders. But talking about new builders, we're going to skip back to 50s and Fender, because that's what we want to talk about today. I'm not going to be able to sum this up properly, and I'm not really interested in exactly what's happening with Fender. And the reason I'm not going to be able to sum it up properly is I've watched a few videos and there's so much contrary information. Contrary, I can't say that word. Contradictory information. Including, I watched the most recent KDH video. If you don't know him, I love KDH. Keelan. He had a video out in which he pointed out some of the ways Fender have contradicted themselves in what they're saying recently. But essentially, they put out some cease and desist letters to people that are making things that look like Strats, and it's not clear if they are actually just going for anyone that makes a Strat type body, and it's not clear if they're going after people that make a significantly similar to a Strat type body. So not just a double horn offset, but it's got to have controls in the same sort of place, implying that if your input jack isn't where the Strat is, if it's on the side, then you're not copying them, because there's contradictory things out there about that. There's people that receive cease and desist letters from them who definitely make things that are significantly different, and there's people that have got it that definitely make things that are the same. And what I wanted to talk about was, I've just seen lots of people arguing whether this is fair of Fender to do it or if they're being a bully. And I had some thoughts about it, and I want to put them to you, Mark, see what you think, see what everyone else thinks, by putting in the context of what it is to be a guitar builder, thinking about it. And the way I want to do that, I mentioned before, we've had people on here that we've interviewed who are guitar builders, and one of them is, I hope he doesn't mind me talking about him, is Les Godfrey. And I don't mind talking about him because that is here. You can go and look it up in our archive when Les Godfrey from Godfrey Guitars was on. And he mentioned, and I'm not naming any names because he didn't, that he was frustrated that he had seen a larger company than him making guitars that very much look like his guitars. Now, that larger company than him is significantly smaller than Fender, right? So it's a small company, but bigger than just a boutique person that makes it out of their own shop. It's a company that has factories and lots of people working for them. I think lots of people work for them. If you see those guitars and you're aware of Les's work, you can see a direct connection between them. If you haven't seen Les's work before, you'll think that it's quite an original design, right? That's fair enough. Now, that company, I'll call them the company. They're not that big. They're big enough though that they're getting lots of media coverage at the moment. So for a lot of people, they'll be new to this company. They'll be thinking that this is the company that make that design. And just on a quick parallel to that, there's another person that came on that I won't mention because he didn't talk about this on air, who was talking to us about his designs and how they were picking up on social media. And he, a few months later, messaged me to say that a large company now have a very similar design to him, and a significantly large company, and how he felt about that. So what I wanted to sort of put out there, Mark, is what do you think the situation is when a small person like Les, who makes a handful of guitars a year, is copied by a larger company that also isn't significantly big, but clearly trying to take credit for it? I mean, a silly question maybe, but that doesn't feel right, does it?
No, it doesn't feel right. Like, when you flip it around, right, and you put the shoe on the other foot, that doesn't sound right at all. It's actually pretty shitty, like copying someone else's design. And if we look at it through that perspective, like if we flip it, boutique guitar builders have been profiting from Fender's designs for years without any debate.
Yes. This is where we go. So yeah, that's two things we're talking about here now. So like,
Right.
if you have a timeline, not a timeline, a line of size of guitar company. Les is here, the company is there, Fender's here. That company is copying from Les. What happens if a smaller builder than Les copies him? Is that a compliment? Is that a compliment if someone's smaller than you copied you, or not?
I mean, are they profiting? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they making money off the design?
I've got a direct experience of that. I make those end of the road Strats, literally Strats. When I put them on eBay, I can't call them end of the road Strat style guitars anymore because the listings get taken down. And that's been the case for over a year, maybe 2 years. Anything that says Strat in it is taken down. I don't remember that happening with the Telecasters, but I'm not sure. But so I make these. Somebody contacted me on Facebook and said, I really like them. I can't afford one, but I hope one day to do it. And we had conversations for, I think, over a year, I remember. And then I found out he was a guitar builder, and we just had a conversation. I said, why don't you try and make one yourself? And then a little bit later on, someone who's now one of my members on YouTube has a YouTube channel called Every Guitar Has a Story. And he had a video where he was at a guitar show in America showing a guitar that was a copy of my end of the road guitar, where the person that had it there had bought it from the designer who had apparently asked my permission to make it. Now, it's very possible I had the conversation with more than one person. I don't remember having it with more than one person. And I don't remember that person I having the conversation with ever asking me if they could produce them to sell. So I felt a bit pissed off by it. And the thing that pissed me off wasn't the fact that they'd made it and sold it. It was the fact that I could see from the video that it wasn't made up to the standard of what I make. Like, there were lots of subtle things about the way I make the guitar that I think make it work. Little details in it, little processes that had been skipped on this one. So I was just looking at something that was an inferior copy. If they'd made a copy that was exact or better, then I might have had that as a compliment.
Right. And so like on my end, on my store, I sell all the plans and designs for every one of my guitars.
Yeah.
Like you can buy literally the CAD files of every one of my guitars that I've ever designed and made. And there's a disclaimer in that file when you download it that says, hey, feel free to build this for your own personal use, but obviously you can't go mass producing these and selling them for a profit. That's where I draw the line. But like you said, if they build it for themselves, that's kind of a compliment. I'm glad they bought the design. I hope they enjoy it. Cool. I get it. Not everybody can afford a multi-$1,000 guitar, but they can certainly try to build one themselves.
Absolutely. I just quickly want to apologize to people in the chat because some interesting comments, but I can't read them and talk at the same time. So anyone's watching in the future, read the chat and I'll try and share them. Yeah, so actually, so on that line, Ray from Tasmaniac Guitars has been on here before. He sells his guitars for you to print at home on the condition that you print them and you don't make a profit from them, you don't sell them on. And he gives loads of support to people that buy them and print them off. And he recently had someone totally ripping off his ideas, and it's someone that had worked with him before buying his files. So that was pretty horrendous. He felt terrible about that. And he sent them kind of a legally phrased cease and desist letter, and that had an impact. You remember that Rebel bass that I made that Danny Sapko played recently? I made, I think, 4 or 5 of them over 10 years ago, and then I got a cease and desist letter from the guy who, legal one, because he had the patent on it for the UK and EU, a legal letter from him because he had been talking to me for a number of months about the fact that we both came up with what we thought was an original idea, but we both found out someone else had built it before us. We compared the differences in our designs, and then he said, oh, sorry, I now own the patent on it. You can't produce these, which was really dodgy. And he said he had backing from Disney, which he didn't. So, there's this kind of, is he really going to take me to court? I don't know.
No.
But I like what you're saying.
No, I was about to say, since we're on that topic of cease and desist letters, like here in the States, a cease and desist letter is not a court order. It's just a demand. That's all it is. And if the recipient does not comply, then the company can take them to court. But these letters are just letters. They're just demands. They're not court orders. You can't enforce them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the same here. But so we've talked about this idea just now that it does seem wrong that a slightly larger company than you copies you. But at what point is it wrong? I think it's wrong anywhere. If anyone slightly bigger than you copies you. I also think it's wrong if someone slightly smaller than you copies you. Why would they not ask you first? Or why would they copy you and then think they can get away with it? That's what bugs me. But then you flipped it, right? You said, how small do you have to be in comparison to the big company that you're copying, right? I mean, if I speak to almost anyone that doesn't play guitar and ask them to draw a guitar, they're probably going to draw something that looks like a Strat. And I've got a question for you, Mark. If you're buying a Strat from Fender, or you're buying a Strat shape from another company, when you look at the other company's one, let's say there's a lot of companies that make really cool guitars that maybe are super Strats. They've got Floyds on them and stuff. Do you look at that and think, oh, that is, I'll just name a name for the sake of it, Ibanez's version of a Strat? Do you look at that and think it's Ibanez's version of Strat, or do you look at it as something unique on its own?
I think this is a good question, but also we're directing these questions to musicians, to builders, to luthiers, and these are the wrong people to ask these questions to. So yes, I do see them as unique shapes, but we have unique eyes and we have unique perspectives, right?
Oh,
No, I'm thinking like you take this into a courtroom where you have non-musicians, right, non-builders looking at it through their perspective, it's the same thing to them. They can't see the details, right?
That's fascinating, because I was thinking the opposite to you. I was thinking the exact opposite. I love how people's brains work. I was thinking, if you show one of us a guitar company that's making a Strat type guitar, I look at it and think that is such and such a company's take on a Strat. That's their version of the Strat. You know, it is clearly a lineage of a Strat. But I was thinking, if you showed it to someone that's new to guitars, that isn't aware of Strats, then they might look at it and just not know that it is an homage to this original thing. So they might think that this is a new design to that company, and that might be their first take on it. And then later on, they might see how there are other companies also making similar designs. So they get used to it. So that what's going through my head there, the example I'm thinking of is when I first started seeing pointy guitars, it was through the bands I was into. I didn't really register that, like, the Flying V's that I liked, which were all Jacksons, had clearly come from a Gibson Flying V, but they were an evolution of that. I don't think I remember seeing Gibson Flying V's until I saw Lenny Kravitz playing one, and that was after I was into Megadeth.
Right.
That's how my brain works. So, but yeah, who knows how people's brains work there?
I mean, I think, see, that you're seeing it through a lineage, right? Like an evolution, and I don't see it that way. Like, if I think of the term super Strat, if I think of Eddie Van Halen's striped guitar, right, the red and white one, that is basically a Strat, right? That's been modified to be a super Strat. But if you give me an Ibanez, an RG, or an AZ, those are not the same guitar for me. They are completely different.
Maybe I should have just said someone else's Strat. Sure. I mean, because I know there are boutique companies in this country that make Strats that look like a particular 70s Strat or a 60s Strat, and they make everything to that spec. But they don't call them. They don't say this. Oh, yeah, they do. They do describe it as a copy of a Fender Strat. They do acknowledge the lineage. I think that's what I'm getting at, is when people don't acknowledge that lineage, it feels odd to me. But I still look at them and think that's a Strat made by such and such. As in, I think of it as in, let's go wider. That's an acoustic guitar, that's an electric guitar, that's a bass. That's a Strat. It's just a type, it's a shape that is just a default thing that you make. Like, it's not, that default shape to me isn't unique to Fender, but it's Fender started that Strat shape off. That's, if you know what I mean. So I always look at it, well, that's their version of what Fender did first. I'm trying to think of, I had the other day a great example in my mind of something in the real world that's not guitars that someone must have done first, and now everyone did. I found this out the other day. This will mean nothing to most people on here. Do you know what a scrunchie is?
Sure.
Yeah.
For your hair?
Yeah. It was a company called Scrunchie. That it was a brand name, and now it's just a ubiquitous thing that you use on your hair, right? No one's going to look at that and think, oh, that is the local corner shops or the child labourers in China's version of that company that made scrunchies originally. It's just become a thing in the way I think a Strat is a thing.
Yeah. So then on that note, since we just talked about how bigger companies shouldn't copy the designs of smaller builders and smaller companies, when you flip it, is it okay for smaller boutique builders to have profited off that S-shape body for decades? So we saying that it's okay?
I don't know what we're saying. We're just asking, is it okay?
Yeah, I guess so, because people have made entire businesses based off that design, off Leo Fender's design.
So I put that video up of me making a Strat body, and people were saying, well, as long as you don't sell it, Fender can't sue you. But I'm like, really? Like, using this lineage, this line of big company to small company, at what point is it okay for Fender to sue? Is it okay for Fender to sue the one person that's making it at home on their own? Or is it okay for them to sue the person that sells 3 a year? Or is it okay for them to sue the company that makes 50 a year or 100
Well,
a year
okay,
or
so
1,000 a year? What point do you draw that line?
Well, let's remember that the original target was a genuine bad actor, which was a Chinese company selling $62 guitars on AliExpress. That was a genuine bad actor selling to scale for perfect copies of that Strat shape.
Do you remember, was it one of those companies where you see it online and there's a blurred out thing on the headstock, and when you get it in the post, it has Fender written on the headstock?
I don't know if it was one of those companies.
I mean,
but you can get those everywhere. I actually have a counterfeit Strat neck right here. 1 second, check this out. I thought it weird that you were getting your listings canceled because I got this off eBay. This is custom shop Fender.
Now, did you get that off eBay because someone listed it as and they thought it might be real?
No, this is 100% from China.
Did it say counterfeit Strat neck?
It didn't say counterfeit Strat. I mean, if you search for, here's the deal on eBay. If you search for Strat replacement neck and you filter by country and say, I don't want anything from North America, just show me stuff from China. You put your like highest price at like, I don't know, $200. All these brand new necks come out. This is roasted maple, by the way, too. Like Fender.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. So yeah, but what I'm saying is maybe eBay didn't know it was counterfeit.
100%, yeah. But they're being sold all the time.
Do you know, this is a different tangent, but I think it might connect to guitar strings, just on a bit of a tangent. I was listening to a podcast, I was telling Michael Fair about board games the other day, and board game production and counterfeiting. And at Amazon, when you sell something through Amazon, where Amazon supply it from their warehouse, you send your product to Amazon. Let's say it is a pack of Super Slinky Ernie Ball strings. I'm just checking in my mind that's the right company. Ernie Ball Super Slinky, yes. And they go in a box or wherever, a storage area full of that type of string. Whichever supplier sends them in, they all go into the same box. Which means if you as a company have bought legit real ones and you know they're real and you've sent them to Amazon and somebody else is sending counterfeit ones in, they will get dropped into the same box. So if I went online and bought from a reputable guitar company through Amazon, those guitar strings, they would be sent to me from that box that Amazon have in their warehouse, which doesn't guarantee it's the legitimate ones. And with the board games, the way you can control what Amazon is sending out, so you don't get people on your legit shop front saying I've been sold a counterfeit thing by you, is you can pay extra, so your ball games, or in this case your strings, go in your own personal bin, so only your own personal supply gets sent out to people, so you've got complete control over it. So it's a bit like that's Amazon pushing off their responsibility to track what they're selling, whether it's counterfeit or not, to you by charging you extra to do it. And I think that's potentially what might be happening with certain other things. But yeah, that counterfeit next is just counterfeit. There's a great comment in the chat, which I want to get back to in a minute. But I just wanted to say from VL, I should know who that is, 292. I'm sure I should know who that is. Which is, we've had on that archive of people we've had on before, and we've asked them why did you get into guitar building? Often it was because someone said, I wanted that Strat, or I wanted that Les Paul, I wanted that guitar that I couldn't afford to buy, so I thought I'd make my own version of it. And it does confuse me as to what point Fender decide they should decide who they can sue and who's worth not suing. Because surely they just sued everyone, the smaller companies are less likely to sue them back or counter sue. And as soon as they go to a bigger company like PRS, which we'll talk about later, they're more likely to take it to court if they want to, because they've got the money to do it. That's the thing. It's about the small companies don't have the money to challenge someone that's copying them. The small companies don't have the money to challenge someone that's suing them, but suing them for copying. So one of the comments, I'll load the comment up here, is what's your take on the fact that Fender today has absolutely nothing to do with Leo Fender. Companies changed ownership more than once. Leo made similar guitars under G&L. Was he copying Fender? One thing that I don't see mentioned very often in any of the discourse around all of this is the fact that I think there's new management at Fender, or maybe just management has changed in some way, to the point where this is just somebody who's got the control at Fender to say we should do this now. And maybe if someone else had control, they might not have done that. So we're all saying we're never going to buy from Fender again. But if that person at Fender changed to a different person who said, oh, I'm sorry for what my predecessor has done, which is what happens in sports all the time when managers get fired and a new manager comes in, then would we see Fender in a different way?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I think we need to compartmentalize what's happening here and think about sort of like the bigger picture, which is overseas counterfeits or overseas production of guitars are identical or nearly identical, right? I think that's really the main focus of Fender's lawsuits. These, again, overseas companies who have massive factories churning these guitars out and can sell them for $62, right? I think that's their main target. The whole like small builder boutique thing, these are just cease and desists, right? So it's just a letter. That's all it is. Okay, that's my take on it.
Yeah.
And then PRS is the big one too, because I feel like people's memory, like they don't remember the controversy when PRS launched the Silver Sky. No one remembers. Like I remember, like it was huge debate over what the heck's PRS doing. And you look at it now, people forgot that conversation, right? And it's just like, oh, it's its own unique thing. But come on, is
that 5 years ago? It wasn't very long ago.
2018, I think, something like that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So there you go. Not that long ago, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the funny thing is, PRS made a 3 single coil type guitar, right? It looks nothing like a Strat, but it was like their take on a 3 single coil guitar, right? You look at that guitar, I think it's a D3, I don't know what it is, something with a 3 in it. And then you look at the Silver Sky and it's like, well, holy moly, we know exactly what they're trying to do with the Silver Sky. They're trying to copy a Fender Strat. Right?
Why would you say they're trying to copy a Fender Strat? But when you look at it, when you look at an Ibanez Super Strat, you don't think they're trying to copy a Fender Strat?
A Super Strat, again, when you think about a Super Strat, especially an Ibanez, I don't have one on me. There are no contours on a Super Strat. They're all sharp edges, right? There's no ergonomic contours, sharp edges. And that's sort of the big one to me. It's almost like a slab of wood, right? It doesn't have the router contour on it. That's the big one. And so when I look at a Silver Sky, it's just like it looks like, and also like the 3 pickup thing, right? The 3 pickup with the 5-way and the 3 knobs. Super Strats typically don't have any of that. I see a Strat when I see a Silver Sky. That's what I see it.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'm not sure. I see a Strat when I see a Super Strat, partly because when I see a Super Strat, it often says Super Strat in the title. I don't know. But by the way, hello to all the people in the chat, loads of new people, because there's only 2 of us today. It's quite hard for me to read the chat and follow the conversation properly, but thank you everyone that's out there. I just want to quickly comment on a couple of things that we've said. We mentioned Eddie Van Halen's red and white Strat, and that, I don't know if you remember, it was a black and white Strat. He added the red to it because he was fed up with how many people copying him with the black and white one. He wanted to be unique again, and that's where he added the red over the top of what was black and white. You know, he didn't then add more colors to it or whatever, but there is that element of even a thing that is well copied at some point is new, and at some point, when does it reach the point when it's too copied too much to be unique anymore? Which I guess falls into my idea of where something fits on the big and small. I also want to get this idea of, I think what I was alluding to when I was saying there's someone at Fender that's made these decisions, and that's what's pissing people off. I want to draw a direct equivalent to music. So do you know the Smiths, Morrissey and the Smiths? Yeah. Smiths, massive band, right? I was never a massive fan. Morrissey did some solo stuff when I was at uni that I quite liked. Morrissey is politically, I don't agree with what he says. He offends a lot of people. Does that mean we boycott his music? Yes, some people do boycott his music because they don't like what he stands for, even though what he stands for may not come across in the lyrics of his music, particularly his older music, but people still boycott it. I think that's what's happening with Fender. People are boycotting Fender because of something they're doing now because of someone at Fender, and that's why they're getting annoyed with it. We're thinking of Fender as one thing, but it is one thing controlled by people. People control it, and they make the
right. Like the example would be like Elon Musk saying something crazy, and the stock for Tesla goes down. Right?
Yeah,
It's just some dude, right?
People saying, "I bought my Tesla before I knew about Elon."
Right.
Like whatever happens, like whatever you think of Elon Musk, and whatever you think about Teslas, it's still an amazing thing that it drove electric, at least in this country, it made electric guitars a big thing. Electric cars, sorry.
Yeah. And then I think about the other side to this, where all this noise that we're hearing is coming from mostly influencers, right? People with a actual arena to express themselves, and guitar builders and musicians, but you rarely hear this outside that arena. Like the Wall Street Journal did, an article recently. So I think that is like definitely outside the realm of guitar builders and companies and musicians. But that's pretty rare. I think about like the actual like kids playing Fenders who probably don't give a hoot about what's going on with the lawsuits, right? I think Fender's going to sell 1 billion guitars. I think kids are going to still buy them. And it's really just a bunch of like influencer noise.
One thing that YouTube influencers guitar influencers never talk about is how many people in the world that play guitar that never watch YouTube or aware of any of these influencers. It's just a thing we talk about, as you're saying. I wonder how much most people that play guitar or interested in guitars or going to guitar shops are even aware of any of this. Or
exactly. Is this an echo chamber? Are we in an echo chamber right now? Like, are we all getting fed the same algorithm?
I can prove we are, because I can see up here on my screen, we've got at least just over twice the amount of viewers we normally have, maybe nearly 3 times. So I imagine this video is over the next few weeks going to have more views than others are, just like when we did Engine de Pontrine, and just like it's going to be in a few weeks' time when we do the next big one that we'll do.
Yeah.
By the way, spoiler alert, next week I want to talk about Guitar Center. Did I tell you about that, Mark?
No.
I'll tell you about that later. Let's not ruin it. So Alan in the chat. Alan's someone who's often on with us. He's away at the moment, or maybe just got back, so he couldn't make it tonight. But he's in the chat. He said, is it okay to copy a 50-year-old guitar? At what point are we allowed to? I found an amazing YouTube channel a while ago, which was for animators and graphic designers. And what it did is it announced regularly what's just gone out of copyright, so you can start using it. So, for example, the week I watched it, it showed you which Disney cartoons have just gone out of copyright, so you can use images from those cartoons in the things you make to sell on Etsy. Maybe you're making T-shirts or coasters or whatever. So its job, this YouTube channel, was to find things that were copyrighted, that people are aware of, that are now no longer copyrighted, so you can use them. And that happens all around the creative world, right? Back to board games. There's so many board games that are themed with Sherlock Holmes because 5 or 6 years ago, Sherlock Holmes went
It's a public domain.
Yeah, public domain. Yeah. Cthulhu, things like this, which you can't see here. This is a Cthulhu model, and that went out of copyright, so people could just start making things with that.
No, Alan has a point, 100%. Because I was thinking about like acoustic guitars, like pre-war Martins, like that acoustic guitar shape. No one talks about that, and everybody uses that shape. It's just like that's the shape of an acoustic. And like you were saying, Daniel, like that S shape, that's just the shape of an electric guitar. So maybe it has been way, way too long to actually enforce any type of like trademark or copyright or intellectual, property.
I also wanted to bring up in that context, something you said earlier about the potentially, we don't know if this is true or not, Fender's initial reason they went to court was to stop that mass-produced China knockoff. I mean, they might have other reasons for it, but one of the problems of doing that is don't care in China. The laws are totally different. And I think I've given this example before. With the guitars I make, I do a lot of model making on them. So therefore, I watch a lot of model making and Warhammer kind of YouTube channels for my influence on it all. And I saw an amazingly interesting take on a few things that are being sold by one of the bigger companies that make things for Warhammer, for model painting. So they make things like the brushes and the paints and the different tools you might use. One of them is they made and sold these little, it's a pot with water in on a little tray. And what you do is you rinse your brush in the pot, you press the button, it leaks all the dirty water out and refills the pot with new clean water. Then when you've done it, you do that again. It was made by someone in Germany who didn't take the patent out on it in time, because I think he may have even had it as an open source thing, that or you could buy it, whatever it was. He had his version of it. This company took out the patent on it. I keep saying patent on it all across Europe, and then sued him to stop him selling them, so they could sell them and make money on them. So they were making loads of money on this thing that everyone wanted, which was only like £20. He couldn't sell it anymore, and then Temu started selling them for £5. So then that company that had copyrighted this guy out of profits now aren't getting their profits because you can buy it from some other mass-produced place.
This reminds me of, like, we did the fractal press, right? Like, you have a patent on the fractal press, but yet you can buy them on Temu for like $20 now, and there's no way you can enforce that patent from those overseas sellers.
That is true, and that gets onto the point. If you haven't seen Mark's video, we're up to 4 times as many viewers as normal. So welcome everyone that's watching. If you haven't seen Mark's video on the fractal press and don't know what that is, because I think there's some people here that maybe are guitar players and don't know about guitar building. A fractal press is simply a device that you might use as a guitar builder to help you push your frets into the neck when you're building it. It felt like a very revolutionary device. The guy that did it, Jay Edwards, is that right? Yeah, he made them. You could buy them direct from him. There was a waiting list, and they weren't that cheap, but that's because you were getting precision engineered things by him. Then Temu started making them much cheaper. Mark did a comparison, much cheaper, potentially for a reason, not quite as good as his ones. So he's losing money now to someone else. But then he did something which maybe fits into our analogy of guitars. He then sold his design, or was somehow made an agreement for his design with StewMac, one of the biggest suppliers of luthier tools in the world, for them to produce and sell them, but they still register his name. So they've gone down to a smaller builder, and they've acknowledged that smaller builder in what they do, which, to be fair, is what they do quite a lot.
Yes,
they might do quite a lot. They're good at that. Right. So what I'm talking about here is this idea of someone has a design idea, someone else rips it off. That smaller company can't compete with a bigger company, even though they make better quality. So then they go to an in-between company who can help them get out their product more and acknowledge that they can still make it at that quality. But if I remember rightly, this might have been in your video, Mark, or you might have just told me about this off air. Jay Edwards potentially may never have made this thing if it wasn't for the fact that the system that he uses in the fractal press was a design that itself had just gone out of copyright. So now other people could use it in other devices. So it wasn't designed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fractal vice, I guess, the trademark or patent expired, so it became public domain, and he was able to kind of like use that technology or concept in order to build the press. Yeah.
I think it's the Blues Lawyer, the blues guitarist lawyer, Blues Lawyer. Great YouTube channel. I watch him every now and then because he is an everyday American lawyer who also plays guitars, and he often talks about lawsuits connected to guitars in some way from the point of view of a lawyer. And in it, he was defining the difference between trademark, copyright, etc. And I think it was him that described this idea of something that's in copyright and goes out of copyright into public domain. The reason that copyright exists is to help encourage inventors and to help encourage innovation. And because what it does is it allows somebody to come up with an idea, copyright it, and then benefit financially from their idea for just enough time for them to make some profit from it, before then other people can take their idea further on and develop it further. And I thought that was a great illustration of how copywriting can be used for innovation, because some people might not bother inventing things if they knew they could never make money out of it, and the copyright allows them that opportunity.
Well, this is a great analogy, because what you just described is that lineage you were talking about, from strat to super strat to whatever, right? All that sort of in between innovation to sort of make the strat better, right? But what happens if you go backwards? What if you see that lineage, right, to super strat, but then you have a builder go backwards and just copy whatever that strat was originally, just copy the original strat? I mean, what is that? Is that counterfeit? Is that a direct copy?
That's what I was saying about this boutique company, I'm not going to name them, that I've seen in the UK, who do make exact copies of Fenders. I'm pretty sure they only make strats. I might be wrong. So that, you know, when you're getting it, you're getting a neck similar to that time period. And
right, 63, right? Yeah. Or 54, right? They always market it that way.
And can I also say, when I think of strat, I forgot to say this earlier on, when I think of the strat, and I was saying that this is that company's version of a strat, I always know it's not a Fender, because to me, as a builder, not that I do this on all my guitars, but I've tried to a bit, the headstock is your signature. I mean, not always the case, but and so when people make a Fender style headstock, I feel like that is definitely ripping off Fender, because you're copying the thing that is iconically theirs. And just to remember, the Fender headstocks, am I getting this right in the right way? If you put if you put two strats together, it can be cut out of one block, one strip of wood. That's why the headstocks kind of got that shape, because it makes it easier to be more economical with the wood that Fender was using in the factories back in the day. But at the same time, it has become iconic, and right. Making a version of it seems like
and that headstock is trademarked. So that headstock is not a variable in any of this discussion topic over this Fender controversy. Like, the headstock is out of the picture. We're focusing on the S-shaped body, right? That's why we can like pick on PRS, because of that body only.
Yes. Oh, but what I was going to say is, I think that the companies that make these copies of strats still make a Fender style headstock, which is what I find more dodgy, I think, than anything else. Mark, have we covered all the things we want about this?
I think we have.
So in that case, we've got so many interesting comments. I'm going to share some on the screen while I ask Mark could you elaborate on the thing you mentioned earlier to us in our Discord chat about the situation that might arise with the Silver Sky and PRS, and the demand that might come around strat type bodies? Because I find your
mostly just projection and conjecture, but we have all learned within the last 24 hours that PRS was indeed targeted with one of these cease and desist letters. Like, we all learned that. Like, that's 100% happening. And I think this like echo chamber we're all in, all these influencers are saying, we would love for PRS and Fender to be in a courtroom together, because we all want to see Paul Reed Smith, defend his design. I think that would be so entertaining. But in the event, just the unlikely event that Fender somehow wins a lawsuit against PRS, right? Because again, we're talking about uninformed courtroom people, judges in particular, right? Juries who are not builders, who are not musicians, right? Who have a different perspective, could potentially see those as basically a copy, right? If PRS can no longer make the Silver Sky as it is, I think they make a change to it in some sort. I thought, shoot, maybe they're, and then Alan mentioned, obviously, if this actually does succeed in court for Fender, they wouldn't be able to sell them in the EU. That's the big one, right? You wouldn't be able to sell the Silver Sky in the EU, which is going to create basically a lot of demand in the used market for the Silver Sky, in particular Reverb, eBay, things like that. Again, Fender owns Reverb, but like, you're still able to on eBay, like, get these kind of things, right? Complete counterfeit. So I thought, well, it might be a good investment to just buy a Silver Sky. It'd be win-win for me, right? Because one, I don't own a PRS, and it would be nice to own one. But if for some reason this blows up, then I actually have a Silver Sky that I could probably flip on the used market to someone in the EU.
We discussed about how do you sell to the EU when if eBay can suddenly say, oh, you're not allowed to sell these things anymore.
But how would they even know, right? Like, again, I bought this on eBay and it's a 100% counterfeit Fender neck. It was a piece of cake to buy it, and they're all over. And Chipsons, I think someone mentioned something about Chipsons. I bought 2 Chipsons with the Gibson logo on the headstock, 100% off, off eBay. Everything's on there. You just have to know how to search and how to find it.
Yeah, I have noticed people, can't remember which channel it was on, had bought Chipsons, but on the website it doesn't have a Gibson logo or whichever the copy is, and then when they get it and unpack it, it does have the Gibson logo on it.
Yeah. The thing now that they're doing is like the ones I bought were Kathy, and they put a Kathy sticker over the logo, so when you see the picture it says Kathy, but then when you get it, you peel the sticker off and it's got the Gibson silk screen underneath.
Hey, Barry just said that Paul at Milehouse had his string through set out gauge copied. I thought it was quite a unique thing he had. Of course it was going to be copied because that's what the market's there for. I wonder if he had them made in China. I don't think he did. And then they're just knocked off from the same company. Hey, that's something that the board game discussion was talking about with counterfeiting. Is it that someone in the factory that produces them is now just doing some knockoff ones on the side? And they very much thought it wasn't, because in China, the reputation of those factories to get business is that they're not going to do that. So they're going to keep people are going to keep going back to them on word of mouth, and they do work, despite the fact that they may do counterfeit things. They work on word of mouth, so they don't want to piss off their clients. So it's hard to tell. But as we said before, anyone can buy anything, 3D scan it, do a copy of it somehow, and suddenly there's a copy out there.
Hey, Daniel, I got to drop.
Cool. Well, Mark, let's say goodbye to everyone here. Thank you, all the new people that are here watching. We will be back next week. Next week, I want to talk about something that I saw a video of, just to quickly say, Mark, which is that the Guitar Centre have asked people to send in their proposals. I think, actually, Mark, you might have told me about this a while ago. Might not have been you. Send in their proposals for a new design, and they're going to build a new design based on customers' input without in any way acknowledging the customers that imported it or giving them anything back in return. So what I'd love to do is discuss that, and maybe we can together online go onto Guitar Centre and upload some of our suggestions.
Let's do it.
What they could do.
That'll be so fun. Yeah. Right on.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Right,
thanks, Mark. Goodbye, everyone. See ya.